Welcome back, mamas. Y'all, today we are going to talk about communication. You have heard communication is key, right? I believe that that is so true as a mama, and how good communication, and you might be surprised at what we talk about today and how that communication will change you and will make you a better mom. So let's get to it. Do you wish you had control of your days, that you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of 2 girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter. Okay, mamas. So on Tuesday, if you did not listen to Tuesday's episode, we talked about how getting comfortable doing things that are uncomfortable is a good practice. It helps us grow. If you did not listen, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm going to recap some of the things because I started to notice a through line of what I was talking about on Tuesday, and those things that we tend to be uncomfortable with. A lot of them revolve around communication. They revolve around communication. And so I'm going to start with a quote here. It's from Tony Robbins. And he says, "The way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives." The way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our life. And I believe that he's correct. He is correct. And I was noticing this through line, this common thread, right, if you will, of communication through these things that I was talking about on Tuesday that are things that I believe we should get uncomfortable or comfortable with, that may actually make us uncomfortable when we start to do them. And what were those things? So one thing I talked about was like apologizing to your children. I also talked about asking for help. I talked about affirmations, saying affirmations. I talked about praying. I talked about getting out and meeting other moms, right? These are all things that you know what? I don't even think I talked about getting out and meeting other moms, but that is something that makes us uncomfortable. And it's something that we have to communicate with. And it's something I had written down to talk about. And I don't think I must not have talked about it on Tuesday because I don't remember talking about it. Go back and listen. Maybe I did, but I don't remember talking about it. So anyway, what I am saying is that I am noticing a pattern that like Tony Robbins says, it's not just communication with others, it's also communication with ourselves. That is the key. It determines the quality of our lives. And when we pray, right, we're talking to God. When we are apologizing, we're talking to our children. When we are getting out and meeting other moms, we're talking to the other moms. When we're asking for help, we're communicating what we need, right? All of these things, saying affirmations, again, that requires us to do some inner work first to decide what affirmations we would want to say. It requires us to check in with ourselves and to communicate with ourselves. We are communicating with ourselves and others all the time, whether or not we know it or not, right? Whether or not we mean to or not, our body is talking to us. We are talking with our body language to other people, whether or not we open up our mouths or not. And one of the things that I believe we as mothers fall into this trap of is doing things that we think we should do, right? Doing things that we have seen others do, or we have heard that we should be doing this or we should be doing that. Doing things that kind of we've gotten into a habit or a routine of doing, but we're not even sure that we even understand or know why we're doing those things anymore, right? We are so used to getting into habits, getting into a way of doing things, following what other people are doing. We have such a way of doing those things and not even thinking about it, right? We aren't even thinking thinking about what it is and how it is that we're living our lives. And we're not checking in to ourselves, to our bodies, to what we actually want. And this is a huge problem, right? One of the reasons that we are so uncomfortable asking for help or maybe praying or, apologizing is that we don't even know what we want a lot of times. We don't know how to ask for help because number one, we think that we should be able to do everything ourselves. And maybe we don't even know what we would ask for help for because we believe that we can do all of the things that we need to get done better than someone else that could help us, right? So our ego gets in the way sometimes, and actually figuring out what's underneath that. What is it that we really need and we really want? And what is it that we could ask for help for? And so I've started to think about this and how it seemed that communication, and I would say it all starts with communication with ourself, tends to be something that we are uncomfortable doing. We are uncomfortable getting still and getting real and raw with ourselves, of checking into what we're feeling, of checking into what we need, and checking into what at the core, at the heart of everything, is it that we actually want as mothers? Because I know a lot of us feel it in our bones. I know if I were to rewind back to when I was super unsettled and super, not even when I was depressed, but just when I was a hot mess, right? Back to that time, I would recognize that I was not good at getting still with myself. I was not good at listening to my body. I was not good at figuring out what it was that I needed or I wanted, right? I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I was just operating, just I don't know. It was like, if you're a mom, you probably understand this. If you stay at home with your kids, you probably understand what I'm saying. It's hard to articulate, but you get into this rhythm. You come home with a new baby, right? And you have no idea what to do or how to raise this baby, right? And so you start doing what it is, your instincts kick in, right? And you have help from maybe your mother, maybe a mother-in-law, maybe you have read some baby books and things like that. But really, you just have to go with your instincts, right? You can take other people's advice, but you have to go with your instincts. And you start getting into this pattern of whatever it is, right? And you are raising this child. And then they come to a point where they are a little bit more self-reliant, right? Like they're a little more independent. They're a little less dependent on you for everything. And we start to get a little uneasy with that. Like we want them to grow up. We want them to learn how to behave. We want them to fall and get back up. And we want them to walk and we want them to run and we want them to climb and we want them to do all these things, but we also want to protect them. And we start to like get into this, how should we behave, right? Like, and we start to look to other people and we start to kind of just figure things out. At least I know I did, by observing others and just kind of, it was an instinct thing, but it was also kind of what I felt like I should be doing, right? Like I felt like I should be doing this or that or the other thing. And maybe I shouldn't be doing this, that, or the other thing, right? That I wanted to do, right? And I never really got still and got clear and really thought about what it is that I wanted or what it is that I needed or what it was that my children needed from me, because I was just going, right? I was just going. There were so many things to do. There was so much that was on my plate that I was just going, going, going. I always had something to do or somewhere to go or somewhere to be or something going on, right? Something to clean, something to cook, something to, inspire my kids, some craft that we wanted to do or activity that we wanted to do, or, take them to the zoo and the park and all of the things, right? There was always something that was going on. And I never made time for me. I never made time for what I needed. I never took the time to communicate with myself. I never took the time, like I said, journaling, meditating, praying. These are things that I recommended on Tuesday. There are things that can be uncomfortable because we aren't used to taking the time for ourselves, but also we have gotten out of the habit of communicating with ourselves, right? Once we have these other humans that are relying on us and that we're raising, we are communicating with them and we are worried about them all the time. And we're not really thinking about ourselves anymore. We don't ever take the time to think about what it is that we want or we need. But the problem with that is that what we need and what we want, that's actually important to our children. They are looking to us for that information. What we want and we need as a family, if we don't take the time to get clear on what that is, we will just fall into this pattern of going and doing. And you will just kind of wind up doing whatever it is that, either everyone else is saying you should do, or you're seeing other people do, or you're just kind of going through the motions. You don't have time. Right? You don't feel like you have time to take the time to sit down and check in with yourself. And that is what is so important and what I want you to do. I have another quote here from George Bernard Shaw that says, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place." The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Like a lot of times, we believe we're communicating, right? Like I know I probably believed that I was communicating my feelings to my husband, what was going on, like, if I was frustrated, why, and all of these things. But really, if we sit and think about it, I may have said things that were like, I'm frustrated and, whatever. I'm like, he might have understood that I was frustrated because I was always on edge or whatever. But did I ever take the time to communicate with him and tell him what I was feeling or thinking? No, I don't think that I did. Right. And we tend to think that everyone else is on the same page as we are, but we are the ones that are at home with these kids all day long. And a lot of times, if our husband leaves, goes to work, or even works from home, sometimes you can assume that you are communicating, what it is that you need, what it is that you want, what it is that needs to be done in the house. You feel like it has happened, but it has not happened. The communication has not happened. And you may feel like you know who you are, right? You may know that you want something more for yourself, and you may feel like you know exactly who you are and you're the same person that you used to be. But I have news for you. Like, I was not the same person that I used to be. And I didn't understand why I was so unsettled and unhappy. And it was because I hadn't taken the time to check in with myself. I hadn't taken the time to rediscover who I was now that I was a mother, because it was different, right? I was the same person, but at the same time, I wasn't. The same things that were important to me before were not still important to me, right? Some of them were, but a lot of them were different. And the way that it was prioritized was also different, right? Even if something used to be important to me, the priority that it took now, even if it was still important, was not the same, right? There were other things that were taking priority above that because I was different, because I was now a mother, and because that changes everything. It does, it changes everything. I have one more quote here that I want to share. And this one is from Nat Turner that says, "Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity." Good communication is. It is the bridge between confusion and clarity. And if you're anything like me, you may be walking around in confusion. You may be walking around wondering why you are not completely happy, why you have everything you thought you wanted and you're still not happy, why you feel so unsettled, why you can't seem to figure this out, why you are walking around in confusion. And I am here to tell you that good communication is the key to that clarity, to the clarity on what is going on with you. Like getting still and getting clear is the work that we do in my coaching program. We figure out your priorities, right? We figure out what your strengths are. You probably already know what they are, but we get really clear on how to use those to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. We figure out what your core values are. What are the things that are important to you right now in this season? Because our core values will change. Those things that are most important to us will change over time. And I guarantee you they have changed since you became a mother. And do you know what those are now? Right? I did not. I know I did not. I walked around in confusion. Your strengths, your abilities, things that you can use to your advantage to get you where you want to go, right? You may feel like you don't have time to do this work, but I am telling you, you need to get still and get clear and communicate with yourself and most likely some other people around you, right? We also talked about saying no in the last episode. And this is one thing where you get clear on what it is that you need to say no to. You get clear on what it is that's important to you. And so then you can filter all of your decisions through that lens. And once you know what's important to you, it will become a lot easier to communicate, right? So we first have to start internally communicating with ourselves, and then we're able to communicate with others. And it still is going to be uncomfortable, right? It's still going to start out that way. But what you'll find is once you're clear on what it is that you want and what you need and why that is very important as well, then you will be able to more easily communicate with others and you will figure out that clarity, right? You will get that clarity and you will be able to share that with others and you will be so much happier and fulfilled and your whole world will change. Communication is key, right? Like that is something that you have heard, I am sure. And I want to tell you that it is so key. It is going to be life-changing for you if you do this work. And so if you need help with this work, this is exactly what I do. I help you to walk through this process so that you can get clear and be happy, right? Go to prioritizewithpurpose.com, prioritizewithpurpose.com, sign up for a prioritization clarity call with me, and we will get started on this journey so that you can reap the benefits of doing this work. And I'm not going to lie, it is work. It is hard sometimes to do this work because it is maybe uncomfortable, right? We talked about that on Tuesday as well. It is uncomfortable to do this work. It might be uncomfortable to take time for yourself at all, right? But this is something that will wind up making you not only more happy and fulfilled, but a better mom. And that is what we are after, right? You want to be present with your kids, and this will allow you to do that as well. So go to prioritizewithpurpose.com and sign up for that call. And if you have trouble communicating with others or even with yourself, I implore you to start with God, like praying about it. Communicate with God and then ask Him what you need, right? What you need to do and where you need to go, and He will tell you, okay? So until next week, y'all. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right back here next week. Keep smiling, y'all.